we are emotional beings, right? And one of the toughest things for us to do as human beings is, hide your emotions. Because over time, you keep hiding it. It's just a matter of time. Time bomb, boom, it explodes everywhere.
One of the things that I recently noticed was facades, right?
Mm-hmm.
The many faces that we all have to wear at certain times throughout, even just throughout any given day,
Yeah,
but as we move through life. And in the organization that we're in, there are a lot of pretenders and a lot of people that are fully invested in their facades
every day
to the point where their facades
becomes them.
it becomes them, right? Where
Yes.
they think that it's real. But when it's interesting that when someone is removed from a particular environment, how you know sometimes they can still wear a particular facade or a particular face with the intention of masking or masking how they're truly processing, how they truly feel,
Yes.
or what they may be experiencing in a moment, maybe with the intention of creating space so they can deal with it internally
Mm-hmm.
before so they can deal with it internally and be able to now change a behavior or you know move into particular action, or not deal with it, but knowing that they have the ability to create another illusion of another character, like maybe smiling when they're not really happy,
Mm-hmm.
laughing when they're actually sad
Yes, yes,
or depressed. And I've seen memes like that too,
yes.
where someone's wearing a smile on the outside, but they're really crying on the
Crying
inside.
inside.
And I've always wondered, and I guess I understand that it's a human behavioral pattern that will make someone respond incongruent with how they truly feel inside for this
Mm-hmm.
the sake of scrutiny and being judged, or maybe they're just not in a space where they learn how to process their emotions.
Yes.
And I relate that I can relate to that on the level of not being able to process my emotions, right? It
Yes.
took me years to, number one, identify and understand my emotions
Mm-hmm.
and what they are, each individual one, and then be able to, okay, in any given moment, this is how I feel, and then act in a manner that's congruent to how I feel,
Yes.
right? Instead of I don't feel good, but I act like I'm good, or vice versa, right? Like or wear a smile when I'm not, necessarily feel like smiling. And so, but as I grew and I got wiser and I got more experience and investigated, like I developed the courage to investigate my emotions, all of them,
Yes.
and be able to go through every single one and be able to say, okay, well, when I'm not feeling good, i.e. maybe feeling upset or feeling angry, or I would never use the word that I'm depressed, because I don't have a working definition of depression,
Mm-hmm.
or like, well, I understand that it's a real thing for people who experience it. I can't pinpoint a time in my life where I felt like how people who say that they're depressed are. So I would never try to minimize the word depression and say, "Oh, I'm depressed," or I'm experiencing depression, because I've experienced and seen people who actually, I was like, "Wait, I don't think I've ever felt like that."
Yes.
So, but I've had to go through a series of my emotions to understand a working definition of them. Like, all right, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
What's the trigger of this, and why do I feel this way? And then it takes courage to even now face each
Face
one of
them.
them,
Yes.
and then process them in the emotion, in the space that they're occurring,
Yeah.
instead of like suppressing them, compartmentalizing, or just ignoring them altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed, like, over time, because we talked about at Endless that life is energy. I noticed that over time that you develop a certain energetic signature based on how you process and
Mm-hmm.
express your
Yeah.
emotions.
Yeah. I mean, that is absolutely right, man. Like we say, right, we are emotional beings, right? And one of the toughest things for us to do as human beings is, hide your emotions.
Mm.
Because over time you keep hiding it, it's just a matter of time. Time bomb, boom, it explodes everywhere, right?
Mm.
And being able to process them, properly, or whatever it takes for you to process those emotions, right? One great example was, again, as we talk about all this artistry of life, is you know what we, partakers of life, right, go through, or happens in our life, and we'll come here and we'll share it, right? And one of it was the same, right? Like you said, you notice the energetic signature, right? Like, I mean, but you and I will have this signature, like, all right, cool. Like, there is this, flow of energy where,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to talk, we understand. Frequency is there, right? And especially when you're growing every day, right? There's this barrier you break every single day, right? And once you get to this barrier, it's like, man, this looks like a familiar paradigm, right? Instead of breaking through, like, you go to, instead of fight or flight, right? You flight, you take the flight mode, right? So
Mm.
whenever you come to this world right here, right, you always take the flight mode. You don't want to, like, fight it. You don't want to face it head on, right?
Mm.
And that was me, when it's like, okay, I got to that level where, okay, I need to break past this barrier right here, right? But didn't even like, just trying to pinpoint, like, okay, what is it, right?
Mm.
And then it was affecting my energy, and I couldn't pinpoint what it was, man. So I was just, again, compartmentalizing, like, okay, put it by the side, man. Let's keep going, because there was so much work for us to do. I'm like,
Yes.
let's focus on the work, man. Competing in April, just focusing on the business. Let's focus on that. Let's focus on that. I'm putting that by the side, right?
Yes.
And very important stuff that I will notice is that affects your energy.
Yes.
The product of what you're producing, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you understand, like, your energy needs to be on the business, like, in the purest form that it can be, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to affect the output. So, just, having someone like you as a big brother be like, hey, man, are you good? I remember when I received that phone call, man.
Yeah.
I was like, and what was funny about that was, I knew that phone call was coming. Right? I knew it was coming. Again,
Yeah.
once you notice someone, energy, the signature pattern, right? It's just, it's difficult for you to hide that energy, man.
Right.
Right? And it came true, right? Like, hey, are you okay? Are you good? I'm like, man, okay, yeah. He picked up on the energy, right? And there is time. And even, after the conversation we had on the phone and everything, to still face, the emotions, right, to handle it, it was like there was this flight mode still there, where you're like, oh, take a break. I'm like, man, I don't want to take a break, right? And I still kept, going to the gym. Like, no, take a day off from the gym. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to work out, but at least I'm going to do cardio, right? That is like, for me, a day off from the gym. But, come to even think about it right now, it's like still that flight mode, not, willing to, like, okay, stop everything, confront and face that emotion, right? Because, what one thing we notice is, once you face stuff like that, the next level is graduation level, right? You
Yes.
just,
Yes.
boom, transcend to a whole different level in life.
Yes.
And, it wasn't until literally you had to even force me,
Yes.
you had to force me to stop, right? And honestly, that was, that was everything. And,
Yes.
remember how, I mean, both you and I, our expression of gratitude is like, we understand on this frequency, right? But that was definitely what I needed at that point of, like, you can't compartmentalize your emotion. You can't just keep putting them to the side, man.
Yes.
You have to face them, right? Because if you don't face them, you become stuck,
Yes.
right? And the crazy part about it is, you become stuck without even realizing you're stuck.
Yes.
And then your mind is, okay, I'm growing.
Yes.
But then you realize, okay, you might be growing, yes, like, outside, your money, business is growing, but one thing that is not growing is you. Your
Yes.
personal development is not occurring because you keep flying, not facing the emotion, right? You keep,
Yes.
taking the flight instead of just fight, and just crush through that barrier. So,
Yeah.
for me, that is what, again, when we talk about the facade and everything, not facing the emotion, that is the importance of facing, those emotions, man, because
Yes.
that was critical at that
Yes.
point. Thank you very much for sticking to the end and watching this. Just go ahead and do me a quick favor. Click on the subscribe button right now.